In 1963, John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. Martin Luther King Jr. was arrested and later that year gave his famous I Have a Dream speech. In the same year, a little team called the X-Men was first created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. What do these events have in common? Well, let me explain. The first X-Men team consisted of 5 members. These members were Cyclops, Angel, Beast, Iceman, and Marvel Girl, later known as Jean Grey. Originally, the team was mostly white men, except for Marvel Girl. The team would later become more diverse, but at its inception, it was anything but. Comics in that era had the same issue as much of the world did. The comics industry was scared of change and scared to show diversity. This reflected the fears the world had. This was during the heat of segregation and protests for equal rights. People were judged for the color of their skin more than the merit of their heart. And this time period is ingrained in the DNA of the X-Men and their most important stories. First, let's take a look at one of the most known X-Men stories ever, God Loves, Man Kills. The story largely centers around the X-Men's fight against William Stryker. Stryker is one of the most outspoken haters of mutant kind. Stryker spreads the message that mutants are abominations in the eyes of God. He goes out of his way to publicly ridicule mutants. He kills his son after finding him to be a mutant, and he kidnaps Charles Xavier after a televised debate with him. One of the most heartbreaking quotes from the book is when the X-Men face Stryker. Cyclops faces him and shouts, "Are arbitrary labels more important than the way we live our lives? What we are supposed to be? What we actually are? For all you know, we could be the real human race, and the rest of you are the mutants." Stryker points to Nightcrawler and shouts back, "Human? You dare call that thing human?" How much of this sounds similar to comments we heard shouted the way of those in color in the 60s? The X-Men and their stories have always been full of allegory such as that. Stories such as Days of Future Past show mutants hunted down by society for who they are. We even see mutants get cured of their abilities so as to not suffer the prosecution anymore. Many mutants such as Magneto turn to extreme measures to fight against their oppressors. Magneto fights against mutant haters in an understandably aggressive way. This quote from him in X-Men 1 perfectly sums up and explains his rage. "There is no land of tolerance. There is no peace. Not here or anywhere else. Women and children whose families destroyed simply because they were born different from those in power." We have seen adaptations of the X-Men on screen before, but I feel that none of them have done the team the justice they deserve. None have leaned on these allegories as much as I would want. And yes, sometimes those type of stories can feel preachy and not well told. But I've never felt this way with any X-Men or mutant story. And the reason behind that is it's real. Every one of those stories is so painfully honest. The struggles that those who are different face every single day, so accurately depicted. But the X-Men stories also give hope, hope of a better world. And each story celebrates diversity more than any other comic does, in my opinion. The world needs to see this version of the X-Men on the big screen. A quote from the original 3 X-Men movies has always stood out to me. It comes from Iceman's mom. "Have you ever tried not being a mutant?" she says. I'm sure anyone even remotely different has heard a variation of this in their life. The world has a tendency to stomp over differences. It has gotten better at it, but we still have a long way to go. This is why we need the X-Men, to celebrate and show diversity on screen. It is so powerful to me, watching someone celebrate seeing themselves represented on screen. I've been tearing up seeing little girls' reactions to the live-action Little Mermaid trailer. I remember my friend cheering seeing America Chavez announced to be in the MCU. And for me, seeing Barbara Gordon as Oracle was powerful, seeing a disabled superhero. The world benefits from seeing diversity on screen. And yes, there will inevitably be those who hate on something because it is diverse, but it's worth it. If the MCU is going to do the X-Men, they need to do them right. We need more members than just the ones we have seen over and over again on screen. We need to see them use their powers in unison. And we need to see different costumes. Character's costume is a direct representation of who they are, and this is especially true for the X-Men. We've never gotten to see this shown on screen before, and I feel it's about time we did. The world needs a new X-Men movie because we need to celebrate diversity, now more than ever. We need to showcase diversity, and we need to show that it is okay to be yourself, Be all of yourself. Imagine how powerful it will be for little kids to look on screen and see a diverse mutant who looks or acts like them and sees that celebrated. Imagine how powerful that will be for everyone, for the entire world. I hope this can show you guys, one, why I believe so wholeheartedly we need a good and true representation of the X-Men on screen, and two, some ways that you can incorporate representation into your stories. To end the video, I will simply leave you with this quote from Storm after Xavier's death. We live in an age of darkness, a world full of fear, hate, and intolerance. But in every age, there are those who fight against it. Charles Xavier was born into a world divided, a world he tried to heal, a mission he never saw accomplished. It seems it's the destiny of great men to see their goals unfulfilled. Charles was more than a leader, more than a teacher. He was a friend. When we were afraid, he gave us strength. When we were alone, he gave us a family. He may be gone, but his teachings live on through us, his students. Wherever we may go, we must carry on his vision, and that vision is of a world united.